Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. We're going to be tackling a really interesting concept today. Imagine the world is like a giant mining operation. But instead of digging for gold or diamonds, we're mining for something called intellect.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. We'll be using a framework called a complicated way of life as our guide. AC for short. It lays out some pretty thought-provoking ideas.
Yeah, it really does. Acwol basically suggests that all those challenges we face in life, they're not just obstacles to overcome, They're actually opportunities to develop this intellect.
Interesting.
And it's not just about gaining knowledge for knowledge's sake, it's about cultivating a deep understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
So like we're all miners in a way,
Yeah.
and the world is our mine. Every experience, good or bad, especially the tough ones, becomes a chance to dig up and refine something incredibly valuable.
Right, and Acwol makes it clear that intellect isn't just about book smarts or having a high IQ. It's about a much deeper clarity. The kind that comes from self-reflection, insights, critical thinking. It's about seeing beyond the surface level and uncovering those fundamental truths that drive our experiences.
Okay, so how do we become better at mining this intellect? Acwol mentions this concept of the matrix, it sounds kind of science fiction-y, as a major obstacle to developing this intellect.
The matrix in this context isn't about virtual reality simulations or anything like that. It's more about the systems of illusions, distractions, and societal norms that can trap us in limited ways of thinking.
Oh, I see.
It's almost like being surrounded by mirrors, creating all these false perceptions of reality.
So it's about those external forces that shape our views. Like how social media algorithms feed us information. That just reinforces our existing biases, right? Making it harder to see things objectively.
Exactly. Or think about how advertising constantly bombards us with images of the perfect life. It makes us feel dissatisfied with our own reality.
Right.
Or how political polarization can divide us into echo chambers, making it almost impossible to have real conversations with people who have different viewpoints.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge these days.
Yeah. And these are all manifestations of the matrix. They can seriously hinder our intellectual growth.
So it's not just those external pressures. It's also about those internal traps that hold us back, right? Like our fears, biases, limiting beliefs.
Absolutely. Imagine yourself stuck in a mental rut, replaying the same negative thoughts over and over. That's how our internal matrix can prevent us from seeing new possibilities and embracing growth.
Yeah, I think we've all been there at some point. So if we're constantly fighting these external and internal forces that cloud our thinking, how can we ever break free and start mining that valuable intellect? It feels a little overwhelming.
Well, that's where the real work comes in. Acwol says it's crucial to become aware of these matrix influences, both external and internal. It's about making a conscious choice to step outside those pre-programmed patterns and start thinking for ourselves.
So it's like we need to become matrix detectives, questioning everything, the information we're bombarded with, the beliefs we hold dear, even the motivations behind our actions.
Exactly. That relentless pursuit of truth is at the heart of developing intellect. But it's not just about awareness. We also need to take action. Acwol introduces this concept of vikarma, which is basically negative karma, as another obstacle on our path to intellectual liberation.
So it's like we're digging for this intellectual treasure, but vikarma is this giant rock blocking our progress.
Perfect analogy. Acwol suggests that vikarma traps us in these cycles of suffering, which makes it so much harder to develop wisdom and clarity.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm thinking of those recurring negative patterns we see in our lives, like in relationships or at work, that keep popping up no matter how hard we try to break free.
Exactly. Those are classic examples of vikarma at play.
So how do we avoid creating more of this vikarma? How do we dig ourselves out of these negative cycles?
Acwol offers a practical tool for this. It's called the three-way impact principle, or three-light sleeve. It encourages us to think about the consequences of our actions on three levels: ourselves, others, and the environment.
So before we do anything, we need to pause and ask ourselves, how will this affect me? How will this affect others? And how will it affect the world around me?
Exactly. By considering those ripple effects, we can make better choices. Choices that minimize negative consequences and create a more positive outcome.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. We're all miners in this world, working to develop our intellect. But we have to overcome these matrix traps, both external and internal, and minimize that negative vikarma with this 3YP principle. It's a lot to think about. But where does all this intellect mining ultimately lead us? What's the grand prize at the end of this journey?
Well, according to Acwol, the ultimate goal is liberation. And it's way more profound than just accumulating knowledge. It's about transcending the limitations of our current existence and potentially contributing to something much greater than ourselves. But that's a deep dive for another time. For now, let's shift gears and focus on how you, the listener, can start applying these concepts to your own life and maybe even discover some hidden treasures along the way.
That's a great idea. Let's bring these abstract ideas down to earth and explore how they can help us navigate the challenges of everyday life. And who knows, maybe even unearth a few gems of wisdom along the way.
Okay, so we've spent some time talking about this framework of the world as a mining farm for intellect. But how do we actually put these concepts into practice in our own lives?
Right, that's the key question. It's one thing to grasp the framework on an intellectual level, but the real transformation happens when we start applying it.
Yeah, it's like having a treasure map, but never actually going on the adventure to find the treasure. So where do we even begin with this intellect mining?
Well, Acwol suggests that we start by changing how we view challenges. Instead of seeing those tough experiences as setbacks or roadblocks, what if we saw them as opportunities to mine valuable intellect?
Okay, I see how that shift in perspective could be powerful. So instead of getting bogged down by frustration when things get tough, we can approach those challenges with a sense of curiosity. Exactly. It's all about asking yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can this challenge help me grow? How can it help me develop a deeper understanding of myself and the world?
You know, I'm thinking about a time when I completely bombed a presentation at work. I was mortified, so discouraged at the time. But looking back, I realized that experience taught me so much about preparation, public speaking, even resilience.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
You took what felt like a negative situation and extracted valuable insights. That's what mining intellect is all about.
But it's not always easy to see the opportunity in the middle of a challenge, right? When we're stressed, overwhelmed, frustrated, it's natural to fall back into those reactive patterns.
Oh, absolutely, we're human. But that's where mindfulness comes in. Taking a pause. Even just a brief pause to acknowledge those feelings and consciously choose a more empowering response can make a huge difference.
So it's like hitting that pause button in our minds and asking ourselves, okay, how can I use this situation to learn and grow? Even if we don't have all the answers right away, that shift in perspective can be so powerful.
Right, exactly. And that pause, that moment of conscious choice, it's also essential when it comes to navigating those matrix traps we discussed earlier.
You mean those external pressures and internal biases that can cloud our judgment, the ones that keep us stuck in those unproductive patterns?
Exactly. The first step to breaking free is becoming aware of those influences. It's like shining a light on those shadows, the ones that have been operating in the background of our minds.
So how do we start uncovering those matrix traps? Where do we even begin?
Well, Acwol puts a lot of emphasis on self-reflection. Start by asking yourself some honest questions. What are those deeply ingrained beliefs that shape how I see the world? Where did those beliefs come from? Are they actually serving me well? Or are they holding me back?
It's like taking inventory of all our mental baggage, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out which beliefs are helpful and which ones might need to be unpacked and examined a little more closely.
Exactly. And remember, this is a journey, not a destination. Be patient with yourself. Approach this process with curiosity and an open mind.
I think one of the toughest parts of self-reflection is questioning those beliefs that we've held onto for so long, even when they might not be serving us anymore.
It's true. It can be challenging.
Like we have to become belief detectives, gathering evidence and challenging our own assumptions.
I like that, belief detectives. And it's not just about our internal beliefs. It's also about being mindful of those external pressures, the ones that can subtly influence how we think and act.
You're talking about those societal norms and expectations, right? Like the pressure to achieve a certain level of material success or conform to certain beauty standards.
Exactly. Those messages are constantly bombarding us, often from a very young age. They shape how we perceive what's normal or desirable.
So how do we start to detach from those external pressures? How do we define success and happiness on our own terms?
It all starts with awareness. Once you recognize those external pressures and how they're affecting you, you can start to challenge them.
So we need to ask ourselves, is this belief truly my own? Or is it something I've absorbed from my environment?
Precisely. When we start to question those external influences, we take back our power to choose. We can decide which beliefs and values we want to align with, instead of blindly following what society dictates.
And this all ties back to the concept of the karma and the three-way impact principle, right? If we're not mindful of those matrix traps,
Hmm.
both internal and external, we're more likely to make choices that create negative consequences.
That's a great connection. The 3WIP is such a valuable tool for navigating these challenges. It reminds us to consider the ripple effects of our actions before we do anything.
So we need to ask ourselves, how will this choice affect me? How will it affect others? And how will it affect the environment? It's like a mini meditation before we take action.
Exactly. And it doesn't need to be a long, drawn-out process. Just a quick pause to consider those three questions can make a huge difference.
I love how practical and actionable this framework is. It's not just about abstract ideas, it's about giving us tools to navigate life with more awareness and intention.
That's what's so great about Acwol. It combines those profound insights with practical strategies for personal growth and transformation.
So we're not just passively going through life, we're actively shaping our experiences and contributing to a more positive outcome for ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly, and that's where the true power lies. When we embrace these principles, we become conscious creators of our own reality.
This conversation has been so insightful. I'm already feeling a shift in my own thinking, a greater sense of responsibility for my choices, and a deeper understanding of how interconnected we all are. But I have to admit, it's a lot to process.
That's understandable. Remember, it's a journey, not a race. The key is to be patient with yourself and focus on taking small, consistent steps forward.
As we wrap up our exploration of intellect mining, what's the most important takeaway for our listeners who are feeling inspired to embark on their own journey of self-discovery? What's that one nugget of wisdom you want to leave them with?
It's been fascinating exploring this whole idea of the world being like a mining farm for intellect. So as we wrap up, what's the most valuable advice you can give our listeners for those who are ready to start applying these concepts?
I think the most important thing to remember is this. Developing intellect is an ongoing process. It's not about reaching some final destination or becoming the perfect miner. It's about embracing the journey of continuous learning and growth.
So it's about staying curious and being willing to question everything, to challenge those assumptions we've been holding on to.
Exactly.
And to keep digging deeper, even when it gets uncomfortable.
Yes, exactly. And it's also about remembering that we're all connected in this. The choices we make, the actions we take, they all have a ripple effect, not just on our own lives, but on the lives of others and the world around us. Which brings us back to Vikarma and the three-way impact principle. It's that reminder to be mindful of the consequences, both the positive and negative, and to aim for a more positive impact with every choice we make.
Exactly. And as you continue on this journey of developing your intellect, remember that you're not alone. We're all in this together, sharing our insights, supporting each other's growth, and contributing to this collective pool of wisdom.
It's like we're all part of this massive collaborative mining operation, working together to uncover those hidden gems of truth and understanding.
I like that, yeah. And even the smallest contributions can make a big difference. Whether it's sharing an article you found insightful, engaging in meaningful conversations, or just being more mindful of your own choices.
So as we close out this deep dive into the world of intellect mining, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. The world needs your unique perspective. It needs your insights. It needs your contributions. Don't underestimate the power of your own journey. Embrace the challenges, celebrate the wins, and never stop searching for those deeper truths, the ones that are hidden beneath the surface.
Yes, absolutely. Keep asking those tough questions, keep challenging the status quo, and keep digging for those nuggets of wisdom. They'll not only enrich your life, but also help light the way for others.
And remember, even the most experienced miners hit roadblocks and face setbacks along the way. It's all part of the process. So be kind to yourself, celebrate your progress, and never give up on your pursuit of greater understanding.
The world needs your light, your wisdom, your courage to embrace all the complexity of life. Go out there and mine that intellect.
Happy digging, everyone. We'll see you next time.